Steelers Nation, the conversation around this wide receiver season has been loud, emotional, and in many ways predictable when you look past the surface frustration. This has never been a player built on sheer volume, and that reality did not magically change this past year. When you look at the numbers with a clear head, the targets tell a consistent story. 99 looks in a season might feel low to fans craving explosive production every single week, but when you stack that beside his previous years, it fits a familiar pattern. This has always been a receiver who wins with moments, with physical dominance and timing, not someone who lives on constant short throws or inflated opportunities. The catches and yardage followed the same line. 59 receptions and 850 yards do not jump off the screen in an era where fans are conditioned to expect video game numbers. For a fan base that once watched a wide receiver redefine what was possible every Sunday, that comparison is impossible to escape. Expectations were shaped by years of seeing one player do everything in elite level, stretch the field, work underneath, and dominate through volume. Against that memory, almost anyone would feel underwhelming, even if the reality of the role never matched those expectations in the first place. What makes the frustration stronger is that this season was supposed to feel different. When a move was made to bring him in, it felt massive. It felt like a statement that the offense was about to unlock something new. Many people looked back at his years in Seattle and thought the same thing. Increase the targets just a little, give him a quarterback willing to trust him, and the ceiling rises immediately. That belief only grew stronger when reports surfaced about extra work with the quarterback, about chemistry being built before the season even started. The assumption was simple. More chances would solve everything. But football rarely cooperates with simple assumptions. Early in the season, protection issues made it nearly impossible for longer developing routes to consistently work. This receiver thrives when he has space to build speed, when the route has time to breathe. Without that time, the offense had to adjust, often away from what he does best. That limitation shaped the entire passing attack, not just one player's stat line, and it created a ripple effect that never fully disappeared. There's also the part of his game that has followed him for years, long before he ever put on black and gold. The early drop, almost routine in its timing, almost predictable in its randomness. A simple route, the ball hits him squarely, and suddenly there is disbelief on the sideline. What makes it so strange is that it rarely defines the rest of the game. After that moment, he usually settles in, regains focus, and becomes reliable again. Even the ugly drop in the postseason did not come out of nowhere. It was something seen before, something that has always been part of the package, fairly or not. Still, the bigger issue goes beyond individual mistakes or protection breakdowns. The reality is that he was operating without real support. The wide receiver room was filled with effort, personality, and professionalism, but not with a true second threat defenses had to fear. There were players who brought energy, who fought for every yard, who set examples in preparation and attitude. That matters, and it should not be dismissed. But there is a difference between admirable contributors and a genuine second option who forces coverage decisions before the snap. Defenses did not always need to roll coverage or send constant help his way, and some will point to that as proof that the situation was fine. That misses the point. Football is as much about perceived danger as it is about actual double teams. When there is another receiver on the field who can punish you for cheating even slightly, coverage changes. Routes open. Timing improves. Without that fear, defenders can play more honestly, more comfortably, and that affects everything. Responsibility for that reality is shared across the organization. Roster construction plays a role. Philosophical decisions play a role. Play design and usage play a role. When an offense struggles to consistently create separation, even for a physically gifted receiver, the problem is rarely just one individual. It becomes a reflection of how all the pieces fit together or fail to. That is why the idea of a reset matters so much looking ahead. Not a partial reset, not a cosmetic one, but a true clean slate. The noise from last season, the frustration, the off-field distractions, all of it has to be left behind. The focus should return to what this player does when put in the right situations. There are flashes that remind everyone why the move was made in the first place. Short passes turned into explosive gains. Strength after the catch. Defenders making business decisions once he gets rolling. Those moments still exist, and they are not accidents. The path forward feels obvious, even if it is not easy. Surround him with legitimate threats. Overcorrect if necessary. Load the room with talent until defenses have no choice but to respect every alignment. Depth matters, but true quality matters more. An offense with multiple dangerous options outside changes the math entirely. It changes how coordinators call games. It changes how quarterbacks trust what they see. It changes how a player like this is perceived when the season ends, because perception is often shaped by context more than raw numbers. If there is one lesson that keeps repeating itself across the league, it is that no offense reaches its full potential with a single isolated threat on the outside. The modern game demands balance, stress points, and constant uncertainty for the defense. When only one receiver truly scares opponents, everything becomes easier for them, even if they never formally double him. The leverage is different, the spacing is tighter, and the margin for error disappears. That reality has followed this team for more than one season now, and pretending it does not exist only delays progress. The solution is not subtle, and it should not be treated delicately. The wide receiver room needs an injection of talent, and not just one body meant to check a box. It needs competition, it needs youth, it needs players who force hard decisions on Sundays. When you bring in multiple receivers who can legitimately win, suddenly everyone benefits. Routes clear up, play designs expand. A quarterback gains confidence that someone will be open, even when the first read is taken away. That environment is where a physically dominant receiver thrives, not one where he is expected to be the answer to every problem. Draft philosophy matters here just as much as free agency. Waiting and hoping rarely works. If there's an opportunity to move up for a receiver who fits the vision, you take it. If value falls unexpectedly, you capitalize. You do not apologize for it. You do not worry about optics. You build a room until it is undeniably strong. That kind of approach sends a message not only to the league, but to the players already in the building. It says the offense is serious about evolving. There's also a broader conversation happening around the coaching structure and how ideas are implemented. Continuity and alignment matter more than constant debate for the sake of debate. A staff does not need internal chaos to be creative. What it needs is shared belief, trust, and clarity. When everyone understands the core philosophy, time is spent teaching, refining, and executing rather than arguing. That becomes especially important in a league where practice time is limited and every rep is precious. Time itself has become one of the most valuable resources in football. Gone are the days of endless on-field sessions and grueling schedules. Everything is regulated now, from how long teams can practice to how often they can meet. That reality puts pressure on organization and efficiency. When systems are clean and roles are defined, players can maximize those limited hours. When things are cluttered, development stalls, and mistakes multiply. Culture ties all of this together. A strong culture is not built on everyone agreeing all the time, but it also cannot survive constant second-guessing behind closed doors. Trust flows downward from leadership, and when that trust exists, players feel it immediately. They play faster. They hesitate less. They believe that the plan makes sense, even when results are uneven early on. That belief is fragile, and once lost, it is incredibly hard to restore. For this offense, the coming season represents a crossroads. The pieces are there for a rebound, but only if lessons are truly learned. That means acknowledging where expectations were unrealistic, where support was lacking, and where structural changes are needed. It means giving players roles that match their strengths instead of forcing narratives onto them. And it means understanding that production is often the byproduct of environment, not just talent. When a receiver is asked to win in isolation without consistent help, His failures are magnified and his successes are taken for granted. When he operates within a balanced attack, those same traits look explosive instead of frustrating. The difference is not effort or desire. It is context. Football has always been a game of context, even if fans sometimes resist that idea. There's still a version of this offense that can scare defenses, that can control tempo, and that can win games in different ways. It requires commitment, patience, and a willingness to be aggressive in roster building. It also requires letting go of last season's baggage and approaching the future with clear eyes. The narrative does not need to be rewritten with excuses. It needs to be rewritten with better answers, better balance, and a clearer understanding of how success is actually built in this league. What often gets lost in these debates is how quickly perception can change once structure improves. A single offseason move, a single draft weekend, can completely reshape how a player is viewed. Suddenly the same routes look sharper, the same catches feel bigger, and the same stat line carries more weight because it comes within a functioning ecosystem. Football narratives are fragile that way, built as much on momentum as on production. There's also a mental side to this that rarely shows up on the stat sheet. Playing wide receiver at this level is about rhythm and confidence as much as speed and strength. When a player feels that the offense is designed to put him in favorable situations, he plays freer. He attacks the ball differently. He finishes runs with more intent. When that trust wavers, everything becomes tighter, more forced, even if the effort never drops. Quarterback trust plays into this as well. Trust is not just about throwing to a receiver when he is open. It is about throwing to a spot before the break, believing the receiver will be there and win. That kind of connection does not flourish in an offense that is constantly adjusting to protection issues or limited options. Give the quarterback more answers, and the receiver naturally becomes more dangerous without changing who he is. The league has shown again and again that offenses with multiple legitimate options dictate terms instead of reacting. Defenses cannot sit comfortably. They cannot disguise as easily. They cannot afford hesitation. When that pressure exists, even routine plays turn into opportunities for explosive gains. That is where physical receivers separate themselves, not by seeing endless targets, but by maximizing the ones that matter most. This is why the upcoming season feels less like a judgment and more like an opportunity. The story does not have to end where frustration currently sits. It can pivot quickly if the environment evolves. Players are not static, and neither are offenses. Growth happens when lessons are applied honestly and decisively. At its core, this is about alignment. Aligning talent with scheme. Aligning philosophy with personnel. Aligning expectations with reality. When those pieces finally come together, the conversation shifts from what went wrong to what is finally working. And once that shift happens, the same player who felt underwhelming in one context can feel essential in another, without changing anything except the world around him. Metcalf's physical prime is still very much intact. His speed, strength, and ability to intimidate defenders at the line of scrimmage remain rare traits. Those traits do not disappear overnight, and they certainly do not vanish because of one uneven season. What determines how long those traits remain impactful is how intelligently they are used. If the offense commits to adaptability, to surrounding talent with talent, and to creating situations where defenders are forced to guess, the narrative around Metcalf can shift naturally. Not through hype or excuses, but through consistent production that reflects a healthier ecosystem on offense. That ecosystem is what turns individual ability into collective success, and it is the missing piece that has lingered beneath every debate about his performance. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. At first glance, it looked like nothing more than another routine decision from one of the NFL's most guarded franchises. No press conference, no official quote, no dramatic leak. Yet inside league circles, a subtle move by the Pittsburgh Steelers has begun to fuel a growing rumor that refuses to go away. According to insiders, the organization may have already signaled its next head coach, and the name quietly gaining traction is Mike McCarthy. The gesture was almost invisible to the casual fan. A shift in internal priorities, a familiar coaching philosophy resurfacing in recent conversations, and a noticeable alignment with concepts long associated with McCarthy's football identity. To many around the league, it felt less like coincidence and more like a calculated breadcrumb. The Steelers have always valued stability, experience, and authority in leadership, and McCarthy checks every one of those boxes. What makes the speculation stronger is Pittsburgh's historical behavior. The franchise rarely engages in public flirtations or chaotic coaching searches. When the Steelers move, they move discreetly, often long before the spotlight catches up. This time appears no different. Sources suggest that recent organizational decisions mirror systems McCarthy is known for favoring, from offensive structure to staff composition. It is the kind of alignment that rarely happens by accident. McCarthy, for his part, represents a bridge between tradition and modern adaptability. His resume carries championship credibility, but also the scars of high-pressure locker rooms and evolving league expectations. For a franchise that prides itself on culture above all else, that experience matters. The Steelers are not a team that gambles on trends. They invest in proven leadership. No official confirmation has surfaced, and perhaps that is the point. In Pittsburgh, silence often speaks louder than headlines. While fans debate and analysts dissect every hint, the organization remains characteristically calm. Still, within the league, the whisper is growing louder. The Steelers may have already made their choice, and the signal, however small, may have been there all along. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.